spooky friends, and welcome to another episode of the Scary-ish podcast.
Woo!
Oh my god, I'm so sick of that. Where I'm Robin Grace, and this is Adam Diaz.
Hello.
And we're here to introduce you guys to some fun Scary-ish topics.
Indeed we are. And yeah, I'm never going to stop wooing because I think everyone would be upset if I stopped. I really do. You should use hashtag.
We should do a vote.
Yeah, hashtag keep the woo or hashtag
It's
get
too
rid
long.
of the woo. No, keep the woo is very short. That's 10 letters.
Woo or no woo?
So you want to just do hashtag woo? No, like we need to make something very specific to our thing so we can track this hashtag. So for if you guys want me to keep doing it, because I mean it is tradition, we've done it for every episode. Do hashtag keep the woo and let us know. And Robin can pick her hashtag that none of you are going to use, so you don't need to remember it.
Stop the woo. How about that? Hashtag stop the woo. Make you stop. My ears can't take it. I'm going to slaughter you in your sleep.
Well, that would not be a good thing, but yeah, we're here with our scary stuff, and I'm kind of afraid of Robin right now, but I'm really excited for this episode.
Would you say I'm scary-ish right
You're
now?
terrifying, and there's no ish on that either, because I sleep next to you, and when you threaten to kill me in my sleep, it definitely freaks me out. But yeah, excited to get going. Robin, what are you going to be covering this week?
So today, I'm going to be going across the pond and doing some haunted location stuff.
Right on. I am headed all over the place, all over the world, in fact, and I'm going to be doing the story of the transported soldier. Some of you might have heard of this. It actually made its way onto our Facebook page. It's been on my wait list for a little while.
Is it a whole bunch of bullshizzle?
No, we're going to get to it when I do my topic. I think you're going first. But before we get started, I want to let everyone know, hey, we're doing the Winchester Mansion thing. We've been talking about this for a while. We're keeping you guys updated. We can't buy the tickets yet, because they're not available till May 1st, and we're going to be going to the Winchester Mystery House on June 9th, 2019, and we'll be able to pick up those tickets on May 1st off their website. However, right now, because it's still March, you have plenty of time to plan your travel. We've had several folks reach out to us and let us know that they're going to be attending as well, so we're super excited to meet some of you folks. Some of you are folks that we've already met that are going to be attending as well, so it's going to be really, really fun, and we hope you can join us. So if you have time and you have like advanced notice, which is what we're giving you right now, please come out. It'll be super fun, and just reach out to us and be like, yo dog, I'm gonna be there.
Yeah,
because we're really excited
let
to go.
us know.
Our travel arrangements are booked, so
Yeah,
we're
so
going
we will
one way or
be
the
there.
other. Exactly. So we hope you guys can join us.
Awesome. All right. Again, we're going to remind everyone, Storytime episodes, all our stories are now going to be on the Friday episodes. This week, I am going to go from paranormal games back to the tried and true haunted locations.
We should probably tell people, I know this is out of order, we should probably tell people that if they want to watch us record Storytime, they can. Wednesdays, 6:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Every Wednesday at twitch.tv/scaryish and youtube.com/scaryish.
Our episodes, I swear, the openings to our episodes, we've been doing this for over a year.
Yes, we have.
And we still don't know what we're doing.
I think half of us don't know what we're doing, and I think that half
You
changes.
interrupted me.
That half changes back and forth. I'm not saying it's always you or it's always me. I'm just saying, like, we operate on half of a brain each, and while one of us is speaking, they take half that brain, and so the other one is just sitting still drooling until we, like, really get going. So you're obviously going first, correct?
Uh-huh.
Okay, cool. So I'm going to let you go first then. I'm going to let you finish. I'm going to let you finish.
All right. So, yes. So I'm going to go back to the tried and true haunted locations. And the location that I'm going to cover this week is the Greyfriars Kirkyard or cemetery. Kirkyard/cemetery.
So a kirkyard is a cemetery.
A kirkyard is Scottish/Gaelic for a churchyard. So,
okay.
Yeah. So it's what it is a cemetery in a church, like property.
Okay.
So that's what a kirkyard is. Interesting. I had to look it up.
I had no idea.
I just learned. So
when you told me you were doing Greyfriars Kirkyard and Cemetery, I was like, cool. I have questions already. So
yeah,
I'm glad you cleared those ones up.
I had to look it up
with.
myself too. I was like, what is a kirkyard? All right. Anyway, so we're going to go across the pond, far away in Scotland. I hope you guys prep your ears for some awesome spooky knowledge nuggets, because this is going to be
awesome spooky knowledge nuggets.
Because this is like history/haunted stuff.
I hope one person out there is like sitting in a drive-thru and they're like, you know what I'm gonna do? Like if you're at McDonald's, you're like, I'm gonna order a 10-piece spooky knowledge nugget and see what they say. I challenge you, good sir.
No.
Or madam.
Oh my God.
Or other, or both, whatever you identify as.
Can I be like, can I get a 10-piece McKnowledge nugget?
You should fucking 10-piece McSpooky knowledge nugget, please.
No, McKnowledge nugget. Okay.
You have to put spooky in there or else they're not going to know who it is.
It's only during Halloween.
You know what'd be fucking crazy is if someone out there did that and whoever was taking the order was like, you listen to Scarish?
Oh my God!
It would never happen, but it would be super
That
cool.
would be super amazing.
If you have a friend that works at McDonald's, you guys need to do this and make us feel better about ourselves. Record this little video and be like, look what happened. It can be totally fake. It's okay.
All right. So, McNuggets nuggets. That's going to be the next thing I make. All right.
Like Betsy Burger stickers. Those really didn't take off the way we thought they would.
But
I still think it's one of my funnier jokes, though.
Yeah, but no, I like McNuggets nuggets. They're cute.
Spooky.
All right.
Spooky's got to be in there. It's the branding.
I'm trying to be hip, okay? I'm trying to be in with the new kids.
I don't even try and do that anymore. Like, my scripts have nothing like that.
This place I'm covering is pretty hip because ghost hunters, wizarding fans, you have television producers, people just coming out to this place to check it out because so much stuff has happened. It's pretty interesting. Like the Discover Channel, there's a whole bunch of different things. It's weird.
Has Zach Bagels been there? Probably.
I didn't see anything with Zach Bagels in it.
Okay, so it's a pure place.
Maybe.
He hasn't desecrated it yet.
All right, so everyone's gonna be like, his name's Zach Baggins. Why do they always call him?
I think
Zach
most of our
Bagels?
listeners know that we just call him Zach Bagels at this point. We don't want to even say his real name, so
he who must not be named.
I don't even want to call him that. That's way too cool. That's way too nice of an honorific.
I gotta say it though because there's gonna be some Harry Potter stuff in here later. Anyway, so the Greyfriars Cemetery gets its name from the Franciscan friary that is on site, and the cemetery is located in Edinburgh, Scotland, which is close to Edinburgh Castle. And I seriously want to travel to Europe to see all these really cool places. Granted, seems like most of them are haunted and really scary, but
it's been around for a long time.
Everything's been around forever, and it's just they're all so historic. And looking at all these pictures, everything looks so nice and serene, but at the same time super creepy and looks like you might get murdered. I just think it's like the coolest place to go check out. That should be our next vacation, is like Europe, going to London and all that stuff.
I agree.
That'd be really
I 100% agree. Don't get me wrong. Like, I want to go back to Japan, but I feel like we owe ourselves a trip to
a different country,
to Europe, and just to travel around there. There's a lot of places there I'd like to see. Not all of them haunted.
We have to check off like a million countries though. If we go to Europe, it has to be like take the train. We should go for like 3
weeks and spend like 3 days in a country
in different.
Each.
Yeah, that would be amazing. Okay. Anyway, other than our travel plans.
Plans. These are pipe dreams, people. We don't have the money for this shit.
All I want is...
I can barely afford gas right now.
Oh my God, it's so true though. Okay, all I want is authentic, delicious fish and chips. None of that
it'd be so
fake,
good.
Like just random, gross, battered, frozen like food fish and chips.
I mean the stuff that we have here.
Yeah, I want real, like, oh yeah, need that. So, I mean, you guys should give us some tips what places we should go eat, even though we're never going to be there in forever. Anyway.
I was going to say, to give us tips on a place that we're not going to be going to anytime in the foreseeable future.
All right. So, the cemetery dates back to 1561 when it was founded, and it's nestled...
No way! My story takes place in the late 1500s
Shut up.
Well.
No way.
It's a 1500s episode up high. Yeah.
All right.
She actually high-fived me. I didn't think that would happen.
So, it's nestled between a 16th century prison and the old George Heriot's Hospital at Greyfriars Church. There are actually gates that connect to the cemetery from both the prison and the hospital. And you can imagine how creepy this place must look. Like, I'll have Adam post some pictures on the Instagram because I've saw so many pictures. It is just absolutely unbelievable that it's a real place that you can see. It just is creepy, mossy, dark. It's like a scene out of a horror movie. But at the same time, it's really pretty. And like it's a mix of things that you're just like, I don't know what I should feel right now. Should I feel scared or should I feel like peaceful? And it just seems like a place that ghosts would go to because it just looks cool.
I feel like this is the place that most of our listeners think about, where it's like, it's beautiful and haunting at the same time.
Yes.
Like, I'm home.
Mary Queen of Scots granted the area surrounding the Greyfriars Church to be used as a burial ground in 1562 for its congregation. And there are a number of famous Scots that are buried there, apparently, including William McGonagall, Scotland's worst poet, apparently.
I was about to say.
Not to be confused with Minerva McGonagall, the professor from the famed Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and
I
Wizardry.
love that you treat her like she's a real human being. That's great.
And George Harriot himself, the namesake for the school next door to Greyfriars, and the namesake for the hospital. So, okay, hold on. Back up. He's not the namesake for the school. He founded the school.
Okay, cool.
So, all right. And then, cute, heartbreaking fact for me is that there is a dog buried there named Bobby. It's a little white, little cute dog. And it's kind of like the story about Hachiko, the dog that used to wait outside of Shibuya Station in Japan for their owner after their owner died.
That's super sad. It's just like that episode of Futurama. Oh my God.
Yeah, so Hachiko waited outside the subway station for 9 years after their owner died. Bobby, this cute little white fluffy dog, stood vigil at his owner John Gray's grave for 14 years.
Oh my God.
After he died of tuberculosis.
That's even longer than Seymour waited for Fry.
That's
Seymour
so
was
sad.
3 years old when Fry went missing, and he was 15 years old when they found him as a fossil.
How do you know that?
Because it's a really good episode. If you have never watched, if you're not a fan of Futurama, or you're lukewarm and you watch some episodes but you missed the episode I'm referring to, what happens in this episode, spoiler alert, skip ahead 60 seconds if you're like going through Futurama right now and you don't want to know, is the entire premise of the show is a dude on the year 2000 during New Year's Eve freezes himself and he gets unfrozen in the year 3000, so he has to figure out what the hell's going on.
He doesn't freeze himself. He falls into
He accidentally gets frozen,
yes.
cryogenically frozen, whatever. The point is that one of the episodes that happens during this series is he finds a fossilized dog that he realizes is his old dog from when he was still alive, who is named Seymour. And this whole thing happens where his new best friend wants to get rid of the fossil because they have technology to bring things back to life from the fossil. And that's what Fry is planning to do. Fry's the main character. And so in the end, he decides he's not going to resurrect his dog because they date the fossil and it was 15 years old at the time of its death. And he said, like, when I left, it was 3. Like, he was 3. He lived a happy, good life.
And he did.
And then they, like, decide that they're not going to do that. And then they flash back. Because the entire episode is him deciding slowly that he's not going to resurrect him, and they flash back to how his dog searched for him when he went missing and found him, and no one would pay attention to the dog, and they could have like resurrected him like right then and there. Super sad. And then the last thing they just stab you in the fucking heart with is they show you what happened after they decided to stop looking for him, and the dog waited in front of the restaurant that Fry used to work at, and it shows the days passing and the seasons passing, and he literally waited in front of that restaurant for 13 years before he finally lays his head down, closes his eyes, and very clearly dies. And that's the end of the episode of a show that came on after The Simpsons, man. I remember crying as a kid and being like, I can't wait till I'm older and I don't cry at stuff like this. I almost cried telling you that story right now.
And
it's one of the saddest episodes of television I've ever seen.
And then you almost cried when I showed you the music video for Happier.
I was like, why would you do this to me, man? It's like that whole thing all over again in a 3-minute window.
All right, yeah. So,
Sorry for the Futurama detour.
John Gray died February 15th, 1858. His dog waited for him for 14 years.
And that's IRL. That's real.
That's in real life. There is even a bell that rings every day at 1 p.m., which is the hour that the community would feed Bobby every day.
Oh my God.
And there are even reports that you can hear a dog barking within the walls of the cemetery. And that could be the cemetery just making stuff up, or like a random dog
Realistically,
barking.
It's this guy playing with his dog in the afterlife because they're finally together again.
That'd be so sweet. There is also a pub named after this very loyal doggo.
Aww.
The pub's name is Bobby. I think the cemetery is actually right behind that pub.
Okay.
Which is kind of cool. There's even a Disney movie about him, which I did not know.
I was going to say, what's the Disney movie?
I couldn't find the title of it. Every website I kept going to was like, there's a Disney movie about it. And I just could not, no one put the title. Maybe it's just called Bobby. I'm not sure.
Or maybe it's the inspiration for one of the many dogs in the Disney films.
Right. And then, fun fact, I did read a couple sources that said J.K. Rowling actually wrote her novels in a coffee shop called the Elephant House Cafe, which is a walking distance from this cemetery. And it's rumored that the names on the tombstones may have inspired a few of the characters.
That's cool.
in the books, which I thought was really funny because, like, you know,
McGonagall.
McGonagall, you get how my McGonagall joke kind of fit in there. And
Yo,
then
J.K. Rowling, if that's true, hit us up and let us know.
And then there is a grave of a particular person named Thomas Riddle.
What? Get the fuck out of here.
No, yeah, okay. If you guys aren't Harry Potter fans, you won't understand why that's important. But that's like the name for He Who Must Not Be Named, man.
You mean Voldemort?
Yeah.
Fear of the name inspires fear
Tom
of the thing.
Marvolo Riddle.
We have those letters.
We have.
Most people have like letters on their fridge so you can spell stuff. Like
we have magnets of the letters that spell out Tom Marvolo Riddle. And
so every now and then one of us will change it from Tom Marvolo Riddle to I am Lord Voldemort. Which, if J.K. Rowling does listen to this, I'm just saying, how hard did you work on that middle name to get something that spells out I am Lord Voldemort? You're like, Marvolo? Whatever, it works.
When I read that, I was like, no fucking way. Apparently, if you go to the cafe, it's pretty famous now. I've never actually heard of which cafe she actually wrote her books in. Her story is incredible. You guys should watch a documentary on her.
Story.
Her personal story of how she got to where she is absolutely incredible. She's like divorced, single mom, wrote all these books in a cafe when she was broke at the bottom of her, like the rock bottom of her life. And she wrote these books and now she's like
crazy famous.
Yes, it's
and
absolutely
crazy rich.
It's incredible. Her story, just go watch a documentary or like a YouTube video on her or something because it's worth it. It's very uplifting and makes you think that life is not always going to be shitty.
It really speaks to the fact that some people, like, you are going to do your best things in your darkest moments, and some people don't acknowledge the fact that that's possible during their darkest moments. And when you watch stuff like that or you hear stuff like people whose lives change during those times, you don't realize, like, it's a possibility. It really is. And there's so many people, like, that's one of the main reasons I really wanted to start doing the movie podcast that we're about to start, which is now called Scene Missing. For any of you who have been with us where it was called You've Never Seen That, and then we realized that
there's
name's
another
taken.
Yeah, there's another podcast
and like
called
every
that.
derivative of that freaking name has been taken, and we went through a million names till we settled on Scene Missing, and I'm very excited about that. We have all of our social medias up, so go and check it out. It's at the Movie Pod. I'll go over all those things a little bit later. That said, one of the main reasons I wanted to start the movie podcast is to tell stories about like where some of these films came from, because a lot of these filmmakers, and some of them that people roll their eyes about because they're so famous and they've been in so much stuff, like they didn't just have humble beginnings. They had like, it's this or death. Like it's just straight up like, if I'm gonna make it, I'm gonna do it now, or else that's it. Like that's a wrap. And it's just incredibly inspiring to hear about like people who were just at the end of their rope and things worked out for them. And it's, I don't know, it's another one of those stories when you talk about J.K. Rowling. So tune into Scene Missing and you'll hear more about those. Some of my favorite movies, like when I bring them up to people are like, oh, that guy or oh, that chick. It's like, yeah, you have no idea.
Yeah.
And
like,
now I can tell those stories without making like people get bored and roll their eyes.
There's so many stories about actors that you're like, whoa. Like we just listened to, sorry, this is huge tangent, but we just listened to the David Tennant podcast where he does an episode with John Hamm.
Exactly.
And I had no idea all this stuff John Hamm went through, and it's absolutely incredible. I don't know. There's just so much.
He had a great interview. I love that he had just said he had a moment in his life where he's like, if you're going to try and do this, you have to do it now. Yeah. And it's just, it's super cool. So, okay, let's get back to your scary spooky story.
All you have to do is go to a cafe that's right above a cemetery, right about dead people.
Wow, it's fucked up.
Get rich. All right. So anyway, what is not unexpected about the area is the hospital served as an infirmary for tuberculosis patients, which most hospitals ended up having to do during that time when TB was like everywhere and you could not get away from it. And
at that time, TB was so hot right then. It was crazy.
It was fierce. Anyway,
it was so fetch.
That just never gonna happen. Okay, you probably know how most of those things happened with tuberculosis. A lot of people did not survive, lots and lots of death. So already that's one thing in the area that's like, well, ghosts, that's how you get ghosts.
Exactly.
And then what usually happens to these old medical buildings is that they get converted into mental asylums for quote unquote insane people. And as the title would suggest, it should contain insane people, but that's not always the case. And sometimes people just send whoever they don't want there, and then they get trapped there and they get treated like crap.
I don't know about how things work across the pond, but you're not allowed to do that anymore. Like, patients have way more rights than they used to, so don't ever worry about like a family coup where they send you to the nut house.
No, this is way back in the day, way back in the day. Don't even worry about. I mean, you could still
worry all you want,
but it's not like this now.
If you worry too much, you're gonna wind up in the nut house anyways. I'm just saying.
The building, the medical center or whatever, it's still in use today by the city and the local university, the University of Edinburgh. And grave robbing back in the day was a very common act because of the medical section of the university and things like that. Students wanted bodies to check out, and there is actually the first episode of Lore Season 2, I think, on Amazon, is about grave robbing and what people went through to get bodies to make money.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was like grave robbers turned murderers. It's like intense. So that kind of thing reminded me of how horrible grave robbing is. I don't know. It was really...
There's a lot of people, I know it's not exactly the same motivations here, but a lot of times people would rob graves because so many people would be buried in their finest stuff, and they would like take the jewelry and like valuables off of them as well. So it's like, it was something that was more commonplace back in the day. But that's just like what I think of when I think of grave robbing.
Grave robbing at this time became such an epidemic because of how much money you could make off of these bodies that they actually started installing these cages above graves that went deep, deep underground. Because if you watch the first episode of Lore, they create tunnels underneath to pull the bodies down into the tunnels. Yes, it's crazy what they do to get these bodies. It's insane.
Just rob a bank if you're going to all this trouble.
It's crazy. So these cages run deep, deep into the ground, but on top you just see a cage over the ground. It's so weird and disconcerting to see because it's either like vampires and zombies are going to come out of the ground or what, but it's just to ward off zombies. It's to ward off grave robbers.
It wasn't to protect the living from the dead. It was to protect the dead from the living. And that is just sad to say.
A prison known as the Covenanters Prison. Prison.
I mean Azkaban, right?
A Covenanter is someone who pledges to uphold Presbyterianism, especially that of the National Covenant or Solemn League in Covenant. And it was at the time where Roman Catholicism was being pushed out of Scotland. There were agreements between the Scottish Covenanters and the English parliamentarians. This is all knowledge nuggets going on.
I was like, wow, there's a lot.
During the 1600s to support the union between England, Scotland, and Ireland under this new religion, the Presbyterian parliamentary system. So the Covenanters became like the main religion during the beginning of the 1600s. And this little treaty type thing didn't last very long because by 1652, Covenanters were defeated in the name of the English Parliament to like squash their whole religious aspect out and put in their own. A rebellion was formed in 1679 to kind of take it back, but was also squashed. And these 1,200 Covenanters were who ended up in this prison. So that's why it's called Covenanters Prison.
Okay. This is just like Game of Thrones, but not at all. Where's the ice dragon, Robin?
Oh, let me get to that later. Not the ice dragon. There's no dragon.
Fucking sweet. This is gonna get so cool.
So, it was said that during hot summer days, you could literally smell the filth and foul odors coming from the prison. The conditions of the prison were absolutely atrocious. They lacked hygiene and care. They were just like, you guys suck. You go there. We're not going to help you.
You lost this quote unquote war. That sucks for you. You're going to live in squalid conditions forever.
Right. A lot of prisoners would be hanged at the gallows, or they were even deported as slaves to different parts. It sounds super messed up considering that there was a church right there.
Yeah.
But if you think about it, like, their religion was like squashed out. So it's like, new church, sorry, we don't believe your religion. We're just going to do our thing. We're going to pretend you don't exist. I obviously wasn't there at the time, so I don't know what their dynamic or the mechanic of their system was, but it just seems weird to me.
Yeah, a little bit.
Only 200, there were a lot of different numbers that I saw. So it was between like 250 to 400 prisoners came out of that jail alive out of 1,200.
Wow.
So only a couple survivors came out, a portion of which either escaped themselves or pledged fealty to the crown. So they bent the knee. Yes! See, I was like, I'll get to the Game of Thrones. Bend the knee. All right, so the main spirit that seems to haunt the cemetery is that of a George Bloody Mackenzie.
Bloody?
Yeah, so it was spelled Bluidy, but I assume that means bloody.
I mean, yeah, I'd guess that too.
I'd guess that. I'm sure it's just like a Scottish term or how they would say it. I'm not sure. This is what the internet
Anyone knows better,
tells me.
let us know.
Yeah. This man was a barrister, aka lawyer, that persecuted many of these Covenanters. So he was the one that was like, "You're going to jail, bitches." And so
why does he haunt this place?
So he persecuted a lot of the Covenanters that ended up being buried in the cemetery. And then he died and was buried there during the 1800s.
So he torments them in the afterlife as well.
He's just a dick.
Wow.
I mean, his spirit is said to haunt the far corner of the cemetery near a big black mausoleum. And this mausoleum looks super scary. Like, I don't want to go anywhere near it. It's thought that his spirit didn't get all vengeful douche until the 1990s.
Wow.
Yeah, so I mean...
So he rested in peace for about 300 years, then he's like, you know what? Asshole time.
That's only 200 years.
Oh, my bad. I'm thinking we're still in the 1600s here.
No, 1800s.
Okay.
Yeah, so he was buried there 1800s. 1990s, which is weird to me because I don't know how you would know, like, oh, hey, he didn't start haunting till this one thing happened.
Maybe he got summoned. Maybe a bunch of kids in ridiculous colored clothes used slap bracelets in the wrong order and summoned this guy on accident.
He's referred to as the Mackenzie Poltergeist, and he terrorizes visitors to the Greyfriars Cemetery. It's said that a homeless man seeking refuge during a storm at one point broke into the big mausoleum where he was buried. And as he did so, he was attacked by an invisible force. I don't know how much you want to believe about what this homeless man was saying.
I'm not going to discount the homeless man's story.
Okay.
But what I will say is if you don't want to be attacked by a ghost, you probably shouldn't break into a mausoleum. I'm not suggesting you break into the church instead. I'm just saying if you're going to break into a mausoleum, if you're going to break into any location where someone's corpse is entombed, you should at least anticipate that's the most likely place you'll be attacked by a ghost.
Sometimes it's a sick vampire lair, and you might find Spike sitting there somewhere.
I hear that sometimes. Okay,
whatever. Anyway, so he said that he was attacked by an invisible force. Supposedly, a poet named Robert Louis Stevenson referenced Mackenzie in his 1879 book titled Edinburgh Picturesque Notes. Interesting name. Picturesque Notes. Pretty cool.
Is this the same Robert Louis Stevenson that wrote Treasure Island and The Count of Monte Cristo?
I don't know.
Okay, my bad. I know the editing is really good on this, so it sounds like I just spat that right off the dome, which I did, but I just fact-checked really fast. He did do Treasure Island. He didn't do Count of Monte Cristo. That was Alexander Dumas.
All right.
Which I didn't need to look up. I just realized that as I was Googling. So.
Okay.
But yeah, he did Treasure Island, so... He also did Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, which I did Google.
Okay.
So there you go. Knowledge nuggets. Spooky knowledge nuggets, bitches.
McKnowledge nuggets. Oh, we can't really call it that.
I was going to say, why do you keep putting the Mick in front when that's just going to be copyright infringement? We had the gold thing with spooky in the front.
Now we know what he wrote. Thank you for doing the research there. Boop.
You're welcome.
What he wrote about Mackenzie, when, quote, when a man's soul is certainly in hell... His body will scarce lie quiet in a tomb, however costly. Sometime or other the door must open, and reprobate come forth in the abhorred garments of the grave, end quote. So he's just like, he's in hell, but when they open that shit, he's going to come back and haunt us all, man.
Right. So they're blaming the homeless guy, basically.
Yo, dog. Okay. People have reported being scratched, bitten, or even have had their bones broken.
Wow.
I didn't see any actual accounts of broken bones, but...
I could just see Zach Bagels visiting this.
Oh, my arm's broken.
Like, I've been attacked, and like there's B footage of him smacking his arm against the wall of the mausoleum.
Yeah, I don't know what to say about that, but it's still scary regardless. Just the scratches and even just being shoved or something, I'd freak the F out.
I would too.
No thanks. there are guided tours that you can take through the courtyard that take approximately an hour or so, which I think is really cool.
All haunted tours take an hour, probably because people are paid hourly and not because that's just about the length of spooky stuff they can fit in.
During many of the ghost tours, people have reported being physically attacked by an invisible force, scratching them and knocking them down. In 2006, a publication by the name of The Scotsman wrote about a documented 450 documented attacks. 140 people had collapsed, and there was even some suspicion that the poltergeist caused the death of a local psychic.
Wow.
He was trying to perform an exorcism within the mausoleum when he collapsed.
This is a really prolific poltergeist.
Yeah.
Especially since 1990, if he has that high of numbers, like, kind of, I want to visit, but I want to visit up to a point and then send in, like, not exactly like the bomb defusal robot, but maybe, I don't know, someone who's a volunteer who would like to. I mean, we could just find a homeless guy, I guess.
His son was also a psychic, and he went back with the Discover Channel or something to the mausoleum because they were going to record whatever. But he says that he doesn't believe that the poltergeist is why his dad died. His whole family doesn't believe that is why he died.
But they think there's a poltergeist. They just think it's unrelated to the fact that the dad died.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, so, I mean, shit happens.
They're just going to chalk it up to the old shite happens.
Why do you gotta say it like that? Anyway, okay, because of the frequent reports of attacks, that area of the hauntings has been chained off and only select individuals are allowed to pass through the gate. And those that have visited the cemetery on their own at night say that they see people at the gate and have strange entities appear in their photographs.
I wonder if they have entities appear or if it's just orbs, because I've seen so many orbs that just seem like dust molecules being hit by a flash.
I say that sometimes. I just add N to certain words.
No, I don't know why I do that. But yeah, I feel like that's what most orbs and photos are. Some of them are not. Some of them are very hard to explain, but I feel like most times people are like, there was an entity. It's like, you mean a circle? You mean a bright white circle in your photograph? So who knows? I'd love to see them, though.
You can visit Greyfriars Church today if you want to. Entry is free, so you don't have to pay to go see it.
That's good.
There is a souvenir shop inside, hopefully not offering any haunted artifacts or anything like that. But I would totally get a little Bobby keychain if they had one.
Oh, that's
I
cute.
think that'd be really cute.
It's nice that there was like a good dog ghost involved in this story on top of like a really horrific poltergeist.
Yeah.
So pretty good stuff.
There's an episode of, well, there's a lot of episodes with this spirit in it, but in Ancient Magus's Bride, there is like a dog that protects the cemetery there, and they think that this dog spirit is a bad guy at first, and then it turns out the dog spirit's a good guy. But it's an anime. If you guys have never watched it, go watch it. Ancient Magus's Bride. I love it. But yeah, no, that's what this dog reminds me of. It's like just this really good spirit that's just wanting to protect their family that's there.
It's so cute and
cute.
sad, but at the same time we got to talk about Futurama, so that's super cool. So right on. Good stuff, Robin. I applaud you and your effort. We've already done most of the plugs, so I don't think we need to plug anything between the topics or anything like that. But again, don't forget, don't leave us hanging for the Winchester Mystery House, guys. And I know I mentioned it before. We went through the whole rigmarole. Like, we were getting ready to do like a bunch of stuff. Basically what happened was, here's what happened. I'm just going to lay this out for you guys. We went to go see Shazam early. So we're like, we need to post this on our newly born social media presence for the podcast that is not yet launched, which we did. And we shared some of it to Scarish. We shared some of it with the old You've Never Seen That media. And then we realized later on in the day, oh no, there's already a podcast called that. And even though they're basically dead, they haven't posted in like 7-8 months, we still don't want anyone to get confused searching for it. So we're like, let's think of a different name. So we went through a million different names, and every really good name is taken. And then finally, after like hours of this nonsense, I thought of one. I said it to Robin. Robin's like, I don't know what that means. I showed her the background, like when clips like were missing portions of it, or reels during like films were missing things, they'd put up something that said scene missing. And I was like, that's kind of perfect, since the entire premise is like, I've seen something she hasn't, she's seen something I haven't, and we're going to force each other to watch it. So it exists now. We have a Scene Missing Facebook page, which is facebook.com/scenemissingpod. So
it's
if you would like,
SCENE.
Correct. So if you would like to follow it, please do so. And then our Instagram is @themoviepod, because I was able to get a hold of that. And then our Twitter is at Scene Missing Pod. And we actually also have a website that's already up and running that shows you the first 3 movies that are going to be our first 3 episodes, which are going to launch with the podcast. And that is themoviepod.com, which we own. So that's ours. So cool. And we have already watched Goodfellas. We're watching Empire Records tomorrow. And then we're going to be watching Pretty Woman a little bit later in the week. And then we should have those episodes up. And then as long as Libsyn approves it, we're good to go. So there's the new pod. Everyone's been saying, like, keep us posted, so consider yourself posted. So I'm going to move on into my topic for this week. And this week, we went to Disneyland this past week that just passed on Thursday. It's a very good time. And on the way back, we were listening to music, and I was thinking to myself, so many people have told us that they started listening to our podcast on road trips. And they put on specific episodes that they hoped would scare them. So I told Robin in the car, like, I really want to research a topic this week that'll like leave people really scared. Like I want them afraid to turn their lights off, like sleep with a nightlight type stuff.
You're such a dick.
And then like as the week went on and we got closer to like research day, I decided like I didn't want to just scare people. There's a lot of episodes that scare people. I wanted to research a topic that would basically like give you really weird dreams. That's bizarre.
Right.
Not terrifying, but bizarre. Where like you wake up in the middle of the night after having some really weird dream and the first thing that comes to your mind.
You wake up in the morning feeling like P. Diddy.
I hate you. Wake up in the middle of the night and the first thing that comes to your mind after that really weird dream is fucking Adam because you're so angry because I did this to your brain. Like that's my goal. So I looked into a couple of different things. And there's a few things that I've dabbled in and done some research on during like late night sessions where I'm just bored and I want to do it for me. And honestly, like we just started watching Man in the High Castle and it's really good. And some of the more science fiction aspects of that show really had me wanting to do something similar to what I've chosen. And I decided on a mystery that's been around for over 400 years. And it's actually been posted to the Scary Spooky Friends group. And it's something that I've definitely heard of multiple times. So I present to you, dear listener, The Legend of the Transported Soldier.
All right.
And I really like this. I was really excited to get into this topic because I wanted to do some history research. I wound up in some weird, really strange places. We'll get there, though, and I'll tell you like what sort of texts I was able to unearth. And not really unearth since they're all digital and stored like, normally. But this story is about a man named Kyle Reese who returned from the year 2029 to protect a woman named Sarah Connor from a bodybuilder who dreamed of being president. And yes, that is the plot.
Will he be back?
Yes, that is the plot of the first Terminator. I asked Robin earlier today if she's seen the first Terminator, and we had to go through all the Terminators to figure out which ones she's seen and which ones she hasn't. So yes, the first Terminator is on the list for Seen Missing now. Anyways, it's actually a story that takes place on October 24th, 1593. And this is a very long time ago. And in addition to that...
No kidding.
To have such an exact date really impresses me because... Like, we could always say, and I'm going to say right now, that this could all be bullshit, as we always say. But I always like to say that it's really the details that make a good story and make it believable. So you can sprinkle salt all over the episode to take it with a grain of salt. But it's going to get very legendy up in here. But I like having a specific date.
I hear the devil's in the details.
I hate you. But the devil's in this story. So we're going to get to
What? Shut up.
Well, kind of. But yeah. After we do the story, after we go through the legend, we're going to put on our Detective Pikachu hats and try and solve this. Side note, is anyone else just like super excited for Detective Pikachu? I cannot fucking wait.
When we went to go watch Shazam, the trailer came for the Pokemon movie again, and we've probably seen it 1,000,001 times.
At least 10 times for sure.
But it's just anytime I see cowering Pikachu with Ryan Reynolds going... It just cracks me up every time. It
actually comes out the day before my birthday. My birthday's on a Saturday this year, and it comes out on the day before May 10th.
All right.
So I have to go see this. I'm super excited for it. It looks good.
We got to go see Endgame before that, though.
I mean, I'm going to see that the first possible day I can, which is weeks before my birthday. So that'll happen. Anyways, like I said, October 24th, 1593. Get yourself in the 1593 mindset. There is a guard who is patrolling the governor's palace in Manila. Manila is located in the Philippines. He's probably a bit on edge because something had just happened the night before. The governor, Gomez Perez das Marinas, I don't know if that's pronounced correctly, probably butchered it. So we're just going to call him Governor Gomez. He had just recently, like hours ago, been killed. As a side note, this is an actual historical event. Governor Gomez was a person, and he was killed.
You're just confusing me now, because now all I'm thinking is some soldier's going to come back and protect this chick named Sarah Connor. God dang it.
Well, no, that's Terminator. So just get in the 1593 mindset. So this governor did exist, like I said. He set out on an expedition from Manila to a fort in a place called Turanate. Pretty sure I mispronounced that. He planned this entire expedition in secret. He didn't want anyone to know he was doing it until it was basically ready to go. So he had everyone working on preparations but keeping it to themselves, and it worked. Basically, no one knew what they were doing, and by the time he announced it, like, we're going on this expedition to this fort, they were ready to leave. It wasn't like people could interfere in any way or someone could say no. He was just ready to go. So they set out on this journey, and on the second day, they dropped anchor off the coast of an island, and we're like, it's windy as F, bros. Like, we're not going to try and get too close. We're having trouble navigating. Let's drop anchor. In the morning, we'll approach the island. And guess what happened that night? Pirates. So the history books say they were Chinese pirates. I don't think that's a distinction I care to make because I truly don't care.
It was actually just Jack Sparrow. He was like, can't find the Black Pearl, gotta commandeer
Well, when you
your
hear
ship.
what happened here, I don't think you're going to think it was Jack
God.
Sparrow. Pirates are pirates to me. So they boarded and they killed a bunch of people. They just started, they slaughtered the soldiers who were on watch. They slaughtered the soldiers who tried to resist. And of course,
so you're saying it was Barbossa.
They murdered the governor.
Holy shit!
The governor came out, and it's like kind of stated that because he didn't wear his hat and they didn't know who he was that they killed him. And they might not have killed him otherwise, but he was killed. So this guard, the next morning, is guarding the governor's palace back in Manila. And he's like, how are we supposed to guard the governor if he's not in the palace? Like, I can't protect you from pirates if you're on the high seas, and I'm not allowed to come with you. He's just annoyed. I mean, like, his job is basically boned. He looks like a bad guard now because the guy he's protecting is dead. And at this point, basically everything I told you is true. The stuff going through his head is just me, bullshitting, because that's what I do. And the dates may be off a bit. It said that the attack actually took place on the 25th of October, but let's not get too bogged down, because basically 24th, 25th, 26th is when this event took place. And that's pretty solid dates for such a long time ago.
Right.
So this particular guard goes by the name of, and of course this could possibly not be his name, but it's stated in the legend that his name was Gil Perez.
Okay.
And he's patrolling this palace, doing his job, since sooner or later there's going to be a new governor anyway, so you want to make sure you're still doing your job, and the palace wouldn't be empty when that happened. So at this point, I just want you to picture yourself as this guard. Like, this is your new job, or maybe you've been doing this for a little while and you're told protecting this place is your responsibility, and you're walking around and the full guard garb is on you. No, you don't. I'm pretty sure he had a sword or a spear or something, probably a whistle, who knows.
Oh, wait, is this too early for guns?
1593. I think gunpowder was around then. I think it was like maybe some rudimentary form, but at this point, he does not have one.
So I just shank people?
Yes. Cool. Just imagine the outfit, though, how heavy that thing is. It's just like all that stuff. Like, you don't have to imagine like the British guards, but imagine like...
I'm imagining the ones that are like the brown green outfits that just have like the square looking caps. Like,
it's very similar. And it has the frills around your neck. You know what I mean? Like the big like collar, basically. It almost looks like the cone that you put on your dog to keep them from licking their stitches if it was just flat.
Okay. So like Pirates of the Caribbean type outfits, those British ones?
A little bit. It's similar to it. Basically what I'm saying is you're wearing this ridiculous outfit that's hard to maneuver in and would be very hot. And you're probably thinking, it's October, Adam. I'm not going to worry about that. In October in Manila, it's 90 degrees outside. So he's definitely hot. For those of you who don't know Fahrenheit and are like, what the hell? Like, he's on fire. Celsius, it's over 32 degrees out. So I hope someone out there who knows Celsius is like, oh... Anyway,
my Japanese friend posted his thermometer and it said like 36.8 or something. And he was like, oh no. And I was just like, what the fuck is 36.8 in Fahrenheit? And I was just like, he must be sick. I didn't look it up. Wow. I just assume he's sick. So
he could be dead. He could basically be saying he's about to die and you wouldn't know. So anyways, it's Manila. It's October 1593. It's hot outside. You're walking around. You are this guard. And at some point, doing this, you are going to become exhausted because it's an exhausting thing to do. And Gil was exhausted. So now you understand the plight of old Gil a little bit. You know what he's going through. You know where his mindset's at. You know what's going on in the background of his life. And he was worn out and he began to feel a bit dizzy. So he found himself a wall to lean against to rest for a bit. And I'm sure he did that thing where, like, you try and look like you're not leaning, but you're really leaning. Like, working at GameStop, they tell you never to lean on the counter.
But you kind
But
of lean
sometimes
with your
you lean
butt.
on the counter with your butt, yeah, but you're trying to look like you're still being attentive. And I'm sure he was shifting around so that he was standing up, but he was still comfortable. And he just decided that he was going to rest his eyes just for a minute. And, like, I'm not trying to judge Gil here, but it's not exactly the best practice when you're a guard to rest your eyes. But Gil didn't fall asleep. He was just leaning. I want to emphasize this. He was just leaning, and
He closed his eyes, though?
he did close his eyes. Like, if you fall asleep when you're standing up, you're going to snap awake when your body shifts even in the slightest. Or
I learned that from Inception.
Your knees are just going to hate you so much. Your knees are just going to give way because, like, you actually fall asleep and then you're going to fall down. But, like, he only had his eyes closed for a few seconds. Like, one of those really long blinks when you take a moment to, like, contemplate your life choices, but you open them back up after, like, 3 or 4 seconds because you don't want to be completely crushed by the weight of your decisions. You just want to acknowledge that weight is there and then hide from it again with your mundane activities that you had just a moment ago been seeking asylum from, because now they don't seem so bad because you've taken a moment to check in on the demons within yourself and decided, like, a little mundane bullshit as a distraction is probably best. And I'm sorry if I got a little existential there. The point is that Gil closed his eyes only for a few seconds. So I don't know if Gil has the same problems I do. But Gil opens his eyes.
I think you're more scary than I was at the beginning of the episode.
But I think someone out there was just like, damn, that shit's real. Like, I know where he's at right now. But Gil opens his eyes after a few seconds, and he's kind of at a loss for words when he opens his eyes because he's not looking at the same scene that was in front of him when he closed his eyes. And it's only been a few seconds.
So he totally time traveled.
Well, here's the thing. It's not like all of a sudden it was nighttime and a bunch of time had passed.
He pulled a Tagomi-san.
The scenery, what?
From The Man in the High Castle.
A little bit. But here's the thing. Like, he didn't transport to a different reality. So just stay with me here. He opens his eyes. Everything looks different. And he's pretty freaked out. And the scenery is literally different. Like, different plants, different buildings, different people. And he's absolutely stunned. And he's just standing there like, oh, Gil, like, what have you gotten yourself into now? And
okay.
He does what I'd like to think most of us would do in this situation when you realize, like, I don't know what's going on. He was just like, well, better get back to work. And he goes back to guarding the place behind the wall, which, by the way, he looks up at, and it's a completely different building now. It is not the governor's palace anymore. It's a completely different place. But
is he still in the Philippines?
I'm going to get to that. He's looking at this place, he's looking around, and there are still other guards patrolling around the wall the same way he was doing, but they are dressed completely differently from him. And at this point, he notices he's still in his regular outfit, the Manila Palace, Governor's Palace outfit that he's supposed to have on. It's still the same. His clothing hasn't changed. But these other guards are dressed differently. But they're guards, and he's a guard, and they're guarding this building. And God damn it, he's going to guard this building too, because he doesn't know what else to do at this point. So he's walking back and forth, pacing the wall with his best guard face on. And these are details I'm making up about his guard faces. But for real, this dude went back to guarding the wall because he didn't know what to do. And he's walking, and he's realizing he is not in Manila. It's one of those we're not in Kansas anymore, Toto things. He has no clue where he is.
Is he a watcher on the wall?
No, he's not. It would have been much colder. And the other guards, these other guards that aren't the same guards that he had left behind, are taking notice like, yeah, this dude's a guard, but he is not one of their guards. They don't know him, and he has a different outfit on. So eventually someone approaches him, and they're like, oi, what's all this about then? Which at this point, you can totally guess where he is teleported to based off of my impeccable
Australia
accent. So it is an Australian accent.
I just know your
Nailed
stupid
it.
Australian accent. That's not an actual Australian accent. Get the fudge out of here.
To which Gil replies to this gentleman, I have no idea what is happening right now. So they ask Gil where he's from. And he's like, oh, man, my name is Gil. I'm a guard of the governor's palace in Manila. To which the other guard he's speaking to replies, all right, well, what are you doing here? You're in Mexico City, brother.
Get out.
This is my impeccable Mexican 1593 accent.
So he's
are welcome.
Still in 1593.
He is still in 1593. He is in Mexico City. To which Gil replies with what I can only imagine was a series of croaks as words tried to escape his mouth, while simultaneously him trying to hold back tears and probably urine from involuntarily leaving his body.
Oh my gosh.
So literally, in the blink of an eye, Gil Perez has been transported from Manila to Mexico City. And if you are unfamiliar with geography, which some of you are, Manila and Mexico City are like really far apart. Like really far, like 9,000 miles apart. So as a side note, some places say 8,000, some places say 9,000. I just went to Google Maps, looked it up. It's exactly 8,830 miles apart. So I rounded up for a little bit of effect, but rounding down eliminates 830 miles, which is not something to be rounded off. Just saying. It's a very long ways. How long? Do you need perspective on how long 9,000 miles is? Well, if you stood in one spot and you walked in one direction and you're like, I'm not going to stop walking until I get back to the spot I left. Maybe you're a flat earther. You're like, I'm proving this wrong today. And you could walk on water. What's up?
All I know is 10,000 miles is a round trip from LA to Japan.
A round trip.
That's a round trip.
So let's stick with this whole thing where you're going to walk around the earth. You can walk on water. You don't need food. Whatever. It's a superpower you have. You're going to walk in one direction all the way around. If you have walked all the way around the world, you have traveled around 25,000 miles.
What?
Just a little bit less than 25,000 miles. That is the circumference of the earth.
It's
25,000 miles. This guy had traveled 9,000 miles, which is 36% of that. He's basically traveled to the other side of the planet in the blink of an eye. If you right now were in Manila and you were like, I'm going to Mexico City, like you just decided spring break, like F it, you're going to do this thing, and you hopped on a plane, it would take you 18 hours to travel there by plane. That's nonstop? That's nonstop.
Yikes.
Yeah. So
Big old nope on that one.
He has traveled to the other side of the planet in the blink of an eye. So the guards questioning old Gil did what I imagine we'd all do in a situation like this if you're the other guards. Because now imagine you're that guard who just found a dude and you're asking him where he's from and he tells you this. You'd be like, can I get a supervisor over here? Like, I'm not equipped to deal with this situation.
Oh my gosh.
So they take him to the supervisor who's like, he looks at Gil and he's like, explain yourself right now. And Gil tells them everything this time. Not who he is, not just who he is, not just where he's from, but his regiment back in Manila that he belongs to. And most importantly, he tells him the details of the days before his departure or his teleportation or whatever you want to call it. And he tells them of the death of the governor via pirate attack. So they have a supervisor huddle and they're like, look, his outfit is legit. That is what the governor's palace guards look like. He sounds like he's telling the truth, but we haven't heard about the governor dying and how the F would he get here so fast? How would he blink and just be here? We can't buy it. So they do what any supervisors would do at this point, and they pass it upwards to management.
Okay.
And it gets all the way to the viceroy, who is essentially the head honcho and not some weird Chinese alien bitching about trade routes and blockades like from episode 1, because those guys were called viceroy something or other. He was just...
That's Star Wars, if you guys don't know.
It is. Star Wars episode 1.
Yeah.
So,
you can't just say episode 1 and expect everyone to know.
I think most of our listeners understand what episode 1 is, but...
My sister's never seen Star Wars, so she would not know what episode 1 is. BT Dubs, I know you're listening. It's the worst one.
It is by far the worst one. And I'm struggling right now not to call you a broken human being because you've never seen Star Wars. But anyways... This viceroy was just essentially a Mexican official with a pretty strong sense of how to handle really weird situations. Now, why do I say that? Well, he basically reviews everything he's been told and is like, okay, guys, here's what we're going to do. Send word on a ship to Manila about a Gil Perez and see if anyone there can confirm his story. Also, ask about the governor and see if that's just some horseshit he made up or if it's true. Because they figured if he had died, the word should be coming soon anyways. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's going to take a while for word to travel because it's 1593. Then the viceroy was like...
Do they have the telegraph machines yet?
No.
15. Okay.
Then the viceroy was like, Gil, here's the deal, bro chacho. You are...
Bro chacho?
You are either... well, it's Mexico. You know?
Oh my God.
So he tells him...
I can't with your crap.
You are either a deserter who came across the ocean, put his outfit back on, and decided to play guard, in which case you're a moron and we're going to put you in jail, or you are a goddamn demon and we're going to put you in jail. And seriously, this is the conclusion the viceroy came to. He is a deserter or he is a servant of the devil, which, let's be real, is a pretty solid accounting of all the facts he's been given.
Okay.
He's just like, I don't know what the case is here. Either he's telling the truth and I think he's evil and somehow was teleported here by Satan.
Yeah.
Or he's a liar. In either case, he needs to go to jail. So they throw Gil's ass in jail. And they're like, you're staying here until we hear back from Manila. Which, since this is 1593, is literally going to take months.
So they put him in jail for months.
They put him in jail and they're like, you're staying here until we hear back. And then he's in jail for months. So I imagine at this time Gil grows like a solid beard and probably carves like notches in the wall to keep track of the days, and maybe takes up the harmonica 230 years before it's been invented. I don't know what the jail stereotypes.
Did you look up when the harmonica was invented? Oh my god!
I don't know what the stereotypes in 1593 were for jail, so give me a break. But the months do pass, and lo and behold, eventually they receive word back from Manila, and their messenger that they sent comes to the viceroy. And this is a little disputed about whether or not this is exactly what took place, but the message that gets delivered is the same no matter what you hear. So the messenger comes back, and he approaches the viceroy in the room, and this is just me painting a scene for you. I don't know exactly how this all shook out, but there is another dude with him, and this guy is dressed in the same outfit they had found Gil in, which they know is the Manila Palace Guard outfit.
All right.
So the messenger explains, like, this dude is legit, and we are about to tell you.
To quit?
Yes, he is. We are about to tell you two very important pieces of news. One, Gil is indeed a palace guard. He went missing on October 24th, in the middle of his shift, the same day he showed up here. The viceroy is told that his fellow guards saw, spoke with, and were guarding the governor palace with him that day.
Wow.
He appeared in Mexico City. Two, the governor of Manila is indeed dead. He did die the time Gil told him, which was the same day that Gil arrived, the exact same way, and everything Gil had told them was completely true.
Wow.
If bizarre and unexplainable, 100% accurate. To which the viceroy replied by crapping his pants on the spot. Probably not really, but who knows.
Was he wearing brown?
He must have been wearing brown pants. And wondering just what in the hell is going on. Because up until this point, all signs pointed to this guy's a deserter who just made some crazy shit up. Or he's a crazy guy with a nice outfit. Or long shot, he's a servant of the devil or a demon. Don't know. And the viceroy, who I have to say, through all the accounting of the things that he did, is one of the most competent individuals in any story that I've ever told on this show. He goes to see Gil, and he lets him out of jail and escorts him, along with some other guards, to the docks, finds the ship the messenger had returned on, because that ship will be preparing to journey back to Manila, and tells Gil, get the hell out of his country and go home.
Wow.
Like, he doesn't know what he is or how this happened. He's just like, not today, Satan! Get on the boat and don't come back! And Gil obliges. And just as a side note, that is awesome. I love this viceroy. He's just handled everything so smart. And when it came down to, like, it's unexplainable, he's like, it's like, what's his face? It's like Harrison Ford watching David Blaine do that card trick.
Get the fuck out of my house.
Get the fuck out of my house. That's what he tells old Gil. And Gil's like, sweet. So Gil gets on the boat, and once preparations are made, and it takes a while, it's not like a boat just like docks and then turns around and leaves immediately. Like, the sailors have stuff to do. They have to go spread all their STDs and collect their new branch of STDs because they got to collect them all. And then they set sail.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
So Gil goes home. He goes back to being a guard for the governor's palace once he reaches home. And the rest of his days, and to this day, no one knows what the fuck happened. He just showed up with, like, knowledge that was 100% confirmed. And once they confirmed it, they're like, we don't know, get the hell out. And it's just been a legend ever since. So this concludes the legend part of this story. So I want you guys to dust off your old detective hats, and we're about to crack this case wide open. So this legend has been around for a while, and it's not like my speculation on the Bassano vase last episode where I talked about how, like, the legend supposedly existed, but there's, like, no documentation whatsoever. Mm-hmm. There are numerous references to a soldier just appearing and the story being told in Mexico. And it's told primarily in Mexico because those are the people who are like, what the F just happened? In Manila, some guy just disappeared and came back. In Mexico City, some guy just appeared and told them these things that he could not have possibly made up. And then it was confirmed that he was really from there. So it's like a Mexican legend more than a Filipino legend, but they know of this in the Philippines as well. So Not only was this story told, but there are references to the knowledge of the governor of Manila dying, the thing that actually happened, the historical event. And there's references to it in Mexico City being known the day it happened in historical records, where it's like there's no way they would have known this.
Yeah.
And in some cases, like, people telling this story mix up the historical records and where things are documented, because there's a text written in 1609, so 16 years after this all happened, that states that Mexico knew of the governor's death immediately afterwards, the governor in Manila. And it doesn't state how they knew, and it doesn't discuss the legend. It just references the fact that the knowledge existed the day it happened. And the actual story, the legend of the transported soldier, first hits a documentation status in 1698. So over 100 years after it happened. But still 300 years ago, because it had been spoken legend until then.
Yeah.
And then people are like, we got to write this down. And it talks about this story as though it was fact. And it's like an accepted tale that everyone in the region knew about. And the speculation from this text is stated in more absolute terms. You're probably thinking, Adam, what is this text you're talking about from 1698 that first tells this story? It's got to be some like spooky, creepy, haunted thing that just was printed around 1700. No, I looked up the original text on the website, and I know I'm going to butcher this, Biblioteca Nacional de Portugal, which is the Library of Portugal.
All right.
And it's online. You can find this. The text is, and again, I'm going to butcher this, Conquistas de las Islas Filipinas, which basically means the conquering of the Philippine Islands. It's a historical text about what happened between specific dates, and it goes over all these historical things. And when you get to the part about the governor being killed by the pirates, it goes over the actual things that happened, that we know happened, but on page 465, it's stated, and this is a rough translation, quote, "It is worthy of consideration that the same day the tragedy of Gomez Perez," which was the governor, his name is shortened here, "the tragedy of Gomez Perez happened, the fact was learned in Mexico by the art of Satan, from whom some woman inclined to such agility, having taken advantage, transplanted to the Plaza de Mexico a soldier who was making a post one night in a garrison of the wall of Manila, and it was executed so without the soldier feeling that in the morning they found him marching guard duty in the Plaza de Mexico, asking the name of passerby."
Wow.
So in this historical text about how this guy died, they make mention of the fact, just a side note, like 100 years later, like, we knew this happened in Mexico, just FYI.
Wow.
Because some witch sent this dude to Mexico City, and he was so discombobulated, he was asking people that were passing by, like, "Yo, dog, where am I?" Which is insane, because when you read the stuff where skeptics try and pick this story apart,
yeah,
they're like, 1609 doesn't actually talk about the story. No, it doesn't. It talks about the knowledge that they would not have had and state that they had it. And then 1698, this isn't some bullshit thing. This is like a historical accounting of something that actually happened that has a footnote that says a witch sent a dude from fucking the Philippines to Mexico. And they're like, this is how we knew, because of Satan. Which is
Satan.
Terrifying. It really is. And it like really lends to the credibility. And if you read certain sites that really want to fact check this, they're like, this proves that it didn't happen. It's like, how in the hell does this prove it didn't happen when they literally reference that it happened like it did, like it was a fact? It's a historical record of the process in history of taking over the Philippines that mentions the death of this governor and takes the time to notate this information because Satan. And they thought it needed to be noted. So that is to say, they're blaming a witch for teleporting this soldier to Mexico because there's no explanation. So the speculation here isn't whether or not this happened, it's how.
Yeah.
People are trying to figure out how, and they just go, must have been a witch in the Philippines and Satan. And no speculation on why, just that this happened, witches. So the story's been called bullshit for just about as long as it's existed. And people always try and like say it didn't really happen because these things, some things quote the 1609 text as saying what the 1698 text said. So basically, because you don't reference things correctly, skeptics say you're lying. And that's really annoying, but at the same time, I really respect people who reference their sites. So
Okay.
I'm just like, cool. But this thing eventually gets retold in like the 1890s. And someone states that they think it's BS and that it must have been 13 or 14 months before they found out about it. And they quote these texts and then they annotate it and they state like they left things out here. And they act like that's proof. And that is not a way that you can basically, you're citing someone who's citing something that happened and saying they're lying. That is not actually proving anything wrong. So then a little bit more time goes by, and 1908, it gets retold and published in English. And then after that, it gets reprinted a bunch of times, especially in the States, in multiple supernatural / bizarre phenomenon publications, all the way up until like the 50s and 60s, where it just becomes this story that people talk about, the transported soldier, which I've heard about. It's not out there all the time anymore. We have our own stuff we talk about, especially around the 50s. That's when everyone started talking about UFOs. This story gets told again later on in UFO publications as like it was clearly aliens. Who else could have done this? And it's like we went from witches to aliens. So it's just like, I wonder what we're going to blame in another 300 years. Who knows? Probably, I don't know, crab people.
Oh my God.
Who the hell knows what's going to happen?
Flying spaghetti monster.
So is this all just a made-up story that got retold a bunch?
Is this real life?
People so
or is this fantasy?
This guy probably thought he was hallucinating his balls off. And then when people started talking back to him when he got thrown in jail, he was like, man, I wish I was hallucinating right now. But like, is it possible that this is just a made-up story that got retold a bunch and people were quoting each other
it's the Philadelphia
for
Project.
400-year-old texts? How is it the Philadelphia Project?
The ship got, or submarine or whatever, got teleported.
It's something that has teleportation in it, so I guess. So maybe that's the case. Maybe it is BS and people have just been telling it for so long that it just wound up becoming something that's considered like fact through folklore. But one thing makes this story really eerie to me as a person who's very skeptical, and it's the fact that the historical accounts written during that period really took time out of their day to reference these things, because intellectuals are typically skeptical.
Right.
And even intellectuals were like, this happened. And this detail is disputed. Yes, it is. I mean, we absolutely know that. But the historians of the day didn't dispute it. It took people actually quoting the historians to basically say they're lying. And that's just horseshit to me. That's just lazy. It's like, that's lazy writing. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's like you can't actually find like something to prove your point, so you just say like, oh, they're lying. So what really happened then? Well, we can only speculate. But luckily, speculation is one of my skills. So what do I think happened? Okay.
Do you have a certain set of skills?
I do, and we're about to get into it. This is what I think happened. I think it's pretty obvious when you put all these pieces together. Gil Perez uncovered a plot by one Luis Perez das Marinas, which was the son of Governor Gomez.
Okay.
To have his father killed so he could take his place. His son was, and this is true, one of the other stuff is my speculation. This part is true. His son was one of the only individuals who knew of his father's secret preparations. And Gil Perez came upon probably a known pirate discussing the plot with most likely an associate of Luis, not Luis himself, who was probably too clever to meet with the pirates himself. And he tried to report these things to his commanding officer, again, wild speculation, who told him he would deal with it and to keep his mouth shut because he was accusing Luis of a very serious accusation.
All right.
And because of the secrecy of his mission, Governor Gomez set sail without ever being warned. Gil tried everything he could to warn him, but alas, the boat departed before the warning could reach him, and Luis was on the boat. So when he left, he was like, nothing I can do now. So to ensure appearances were kept up, Luis accompanied his father on the trip, knowing what would happen and knowing his survival. Absolutely.
Okay.
Knowing his survival would be ensured. News returned eventually of the governor's death. When that happened, Gil was like, I don't know what to do. And then the good news came. Luis survived. Big surprise. So Gil, being smart, was just like, here's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to go to my supervisors. I'm going to go to my peers. And he started talking to the soldiers. And he said, you know what we should do? Before anyone comes home, we should hold a vote. And we should pick who the next governor is going to be. It shouldn't be appointed. We should decide. And his fucking soldiers were like, yeah, that's a good idea. And they started talking to their friends and their family. And they're like, we should do this. And guess what? They did. The soldiers and the people held a vote. And
so they
voted,
turned into a democracy?
They voted for someone else. That is 100% true. They actually, for whatever reason, decided they were going to vote on this thing. And they put someone else in power. That said, because it was the same night and he had put this idea out there to his friends, he didn't realize that Luis knew that Gil knew. So Luis had something in place to make sure that this would basically be cleaned up while he was gone. But killing Gil would have been too risky. You can't just kill the guy that accused you of this plot. Absolutely speculation. If you kill someone who accused you of something, it just makes you look basically guilty. So he had to be more clever. He did what anyone with wealth and a connection to the underbelly of society would do. he hired a witch. She wouldn't kill Gil. No. She would wipe his memory of overseeing the conversation between Luis's man and the pirate, because with that memory gone, his subsequent memories and events that happened after that would just fade away. But we all know, and this is again speculation, that magic comes with a cost. And as the witch approached from the darkness, she cast her spell knowing there was side effects, but she would just do it because she was getting paid, whatever. And that memory of the treacherous meeting began to remove itself, and as the treasonous plot began to remove itself from Gil's mind, he got woozy. So he leaned against the wall, and when he blinked, the witch saw him disappear. The teleportation was merely a side effect of the memory wipe spell. He wound up stranded.
Absolutely unbelievable.
He wound up stranded in a foreign land, and was pretty goddamn good side effect for Luis and the witch, let's be honest. Like, they're like, sweet, he's gone. We accidentally disintegrated him. No big deal. He didn't die. He just disappeared.
It was Thanos.
So, yeah, Thanos snapped. There you go. But something happened they didn't expect. The people voted. This part is 100% true. Pedro de Rojas was elected to serve as the new governor, so Gil's efforts were not in vain. When he returned home months later after being teleported and having his memory wiped while in Mexico City, he went back to work. He protected the governor's palace, and that governor's palace held Governor Luis Perez das Marinas. What? Record scratch? Adam, you just said they voted someone else.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did. Sadly, even though Gil's efforts saw another man elected through the democratic process, God damn it,
they were like, nah, man.
it only took 40 days for Luis, the goddamn traitor, to
How many times are you going to say that?
To produce a document showing his father had named him as his successor. He took office December 3rd, 1593. 40 days after the people had voted someone else in, Luis took over. Side note, those parts are 100% true. They voted a different guy in. 40 days later, Luis did indeed produce a document stating that his father had named him his successor. What is super interesting about that is that his father had also named multiple other people his successor, not just his son, including, let me find his name here, Captain Esteban Rodriguez de Figueroa, who also produced a document showing the exact same thing. He was the captain of the fucking boat that was hijacked, and he survived the attack too. So it essentially became a race for him and Luis to get home because the pirates took the boat. And Luis apparently just got home first, or something happened to Captain Figueroa where he decided he wasn't going to try and become this guy anymore. And we don't know exactly why he didn't get put into power. We know Luis did, but I bet that damn witch had something to do with it. Just saying. The end.
Wow.
There's my speculation on what actually happened with the transported soldier.
Some intense speculation.
Yeah, you're damn right it is. So all of our producer friends out there, feel free to reach out to me. We can make this script in a week or so and get it on the silver screen as ASAP. We'll call it the transported soldier, but like how it happens, like that's the screenplay's name, and then by the time it gets made, the name will have changed to something more palatable for the market, like Lost in Time or something like that. But that's fine. But you know what the best part about this story is? That is obviously going to get picked up and optioned into a huge movie. At the beginning, we can put based on a true story.
Oh my
because
goodness.
It is based on a true story. And that, my dear listeners, is the legend of the transported soldier. I hate you so much. So, yeah, I know it got a little weird there, but let's be real. My speculation isn't as crazy as it sounds. And I want you to think about what you think actually happened so it can haunt your dreams.
Oh, my goodness. Okay.
But that's everything I have for the legend of the transported soldier. So I hope you enjoyed that and hope it didn't get too ridiculous, but I really had fun doing the research on this one. I literally had documents that were in a different language from hundreds of years ago up on my screen like, yo, Google Translate, help a brother out right now. I need to know what this shit says. So, and there's a lot of websites out there. Some of them are just like this happened because of aliens. And then other people that are like, I'm going to tell you the story and then 100% disprove this by quoting someone who didn't actually do any research. So it was really fun to research. And these things are so like disappearances are so bizarre to me, especially mass disappearances, but some dude disappearing and showing up on the other side of the world 400 years ago, and no one has any clue what happened to this day, is just so fascinating.
Yeah.
So Hope you folks enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was really cool. Thank you.
No problem. So we're going to do the wrap-up now. Robin, if folks wanted to give us donations, I know some people are like, how can I help the podcast? And they want to do so financially. How can they do so?
If you go to patreon.com/scaryishpodcast, that's a monthly donation system where there are different tiers starting at $1 and up. And each tier has different benefits.
Pretty good bennies, let's be real.
Yeah, there's a physical one. I just sent out a whole bunch for the spring season where I had made a bunch of button magnets. And I had stickers created for the new design, and I mail them out to everyone, and I think they're really cute. I mean...
They are. And we've gotten really good feedback on them.
And then there's ko-fi.com/scaryishpodcast. Those are one-time donations, and all those donations go to helping us upgrade our studio setup. And
big shout out to all those folks who bought us coffees this past week. There was quite a few of you. We appreciate every single one of you.
Yeah, and it helps so much. And I mean, I know if you folks go back to watch our first YouTube videos, you can tell that there's a huge difference between those to the ones that we do now because of the lovely donations you guys.
You make things that we daydream about possible because we're like, we want to bring a better quality product. So it's like when you have a GoPro that's 3 generations old, duct taped to a tripod, you're like, man, I really wish that was a camera, and you folks have made that possible for us. And, it's not the most expensive camera, but we do really good research and it's a very reliable and solid camera and we can tell the difference and so can you. And that's thanks to you folks. So we really sincerely appreciate it.
And if you folks actually go to our website, scaryish.com, we do post a bunch of stuff there. We've posted our Amazon wish list there, which is all the stuff that we could use in the studio. And some research materials and things like that we can use. And if you go to our website, you can find that among a whole bunch of other goodies that we post there.
If you're like, I don't want to buy you stuff, I just want to buy stuff from you, you can go to scarysh.com and check out the store because every product that we sell, regardless of its location, because we have like 3 different stores, they are all compiled into one place. It's the store link at the top of scarysh.com. Just click there and follow the link of any product that you'd like to inquire about. It's just like anytime you buy a t-shirt, there's a bunch of different variations in size. You can also change the color, and there's a bunch of different combinations of what you can get.
Yeah.
And it's a really good thing. I'm pretty happy that we got all this stuff up and running. So if you folks want to reach out to us because you have a story you would like to share with us, you can email us, and the email address is storytime@scarysh.com. You can also go to scarysh.com and click on Contact Us and fill out that form. You don't have to worry about having an email address. You can just send it to us that way. You can also go to facebook.com/Scarish Podcast and message us directly. And if you want to, you can join the Scarish Spooky Friends group, which is just a group where we post a bunch of memes or scary stuff that we find on the internet. And you can post your story there and get some instant feedback from the community if you would like. You can also join our Discord server. And if you want to do that, we have a lot
of new members.
We do. You can go to scarish.com and scroll down and you'll see the links to all of our social media. Find the Discord icon and just click that. It'll take you straight into our server, which is awesome. If you want to tweet at us, it's @ScarishPod. And if you want, it's @ScarishPod. Yeah, it's @ScarishPod. And if you want to Instagram us, @ScarishPodcast. And those are all the different social medias. And if you're ever like, man, I don't want to try and remember all this stuff, go to scarish.com. There's link to absolutely everything. All of our online presence you can find there. And we appreciate every single one of you folks. And thank you so much for listening to episode 68. So, Robin, go ahead and sound us out.
Keep on creeping on, and we'll talk to you guys later.
Bye.